Customer Excellence Podcast. I am joined today by a very special guest all the way from, is it the Ukraine you're in today?
I am in Kiev in Ukraine, that's correct.
That is amazing. So we've had two international guests on the show today, but before I get ahead of myself, let's go ahead and introduce our guest. This is GQ, the co-founder and CEO of LTV Plus, a fantastic company, and I'm sure we're going to learn more about it. GQ, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Love to be here.
Absolutely, man. So we've got about 13 questions on the docket. We're going to go down this line and just kind of ask you one by one. We'll learn a little bit more about you. We'll learn a little bit more about what you do and give some lessons to our viewers and our listeners. Are you ready to go, man?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, let's dial the clock back a little bit and start all the way back from your beginning, man. I want to know a little bit more about your background, right? How did you get started in customer support?
Yeah, well, I think this must be all the way back in 2015, thereabouts. So I had been, in music and a little bit of audio post-production as well, which is kind of why I understood what you were talking about prior, when we were starting this shoot. So I've been doing that for a while, and I figured I wanted to get into technology. And, with the kind of skills I picked up over time, I figured customer service or customer success made the most sense. So I started out as a customer success manager for a tech company in Singapore back in early 2015, I think, if I didn't get those dates wrong. And that's how I got started in customer support in a way. I had worked in two startups prior to co-founding LTV Plus.
Right on. Now, let's talk more about that LTV Plus. What makes your company customer focused?
Sure. So the first thing is even in our core values that we're customer success driven. So we take on the approach of being proactive with all the clients that we work with, right? The goal is we want to understand, really what their business goals are. It's not just as simple as like, hey, we need coverage for the weekend, and then we just do that and call it a day. It's more, okay, right. You need coverage for the weekend. But we want to understand, what else do you want to achieve with this weekend coverage? And so really a lot of the conversation is centered around the customer that we work with. And we want to always think a few steps ahead. And so we can translate ideally their goals into actionable items that we can work on. And I think one of the other things as well is that because we do see similarities across the verticals that we support at LTV Plus, we replicate some of the playbooks that are successful. And so whatever successful outcomes that we've had with certain clients, we take that and, obviously implement that with our other clients as well.
Absolutely. Now, before we get too ahead of ourselves, which I find myself doing pretty often, why don't you go ahead and explain for the listeners and the viewers what LTV Plus actually does, right?
Yeah, for sure. So we are a customer service outsourcing company that's completely remote. We're 100% remote, and we have people in APAC, Europe, in America as well, South America rather. And really, we've been in the market about close to slightly over 3 years, primarily supporting e-commerce and a little bit of SaaS. And our goal here is to just provide high quality, dedicated agents, to support our clients. In the matters of when they're scaling, off hours, if they have influx. And the way we do this is, we're providing trainers, QA departments, we're providing a customer success manager that understands what they need for customer support. And of course, on top of that, we do have a recruitment arm or HR team that's making sure that the agents who are recruiting are, for lack of a better way to put it, they are familiar with the industry that they're supporting. They're familiar with what the brands are selling or what the brands are providing. And on top of that, also that they love and breathe, ideally the brand or the industry. So for example, if you're let's say athleisure, right? If you're an athleisure brand, we'd probably want to have agents that are very interested in sports, very interested in sports fashion, and then, have that person support that business. So yeah.
Gotcha. I got to ask you, man, what makes someone decide to get into this type of industry? Did you just wake up one day and say, hey, this seems like a good avenue to work in?
Yeah, well, I think it kind of one thing led to another, right? So, I have a background in customer success, not too long, maybe about almost 2 years. But a conversation with my good friend and partner, David, led to the start of LTV Plus. We figured, he had a great experience outsourcing or building remote teams with his previous business. And we wanted to bring this experience or this opportunities to both sides of the table, right? So we want to make sure that our clients are able to access talents from anywhere. And on top of that, that we are able to give work to people from anywhere, as long as you have internet, great internet, of course, hardware, right, the languages and the skill sets. That's what we want to do. And because, I love customer success, I love customer service. And that's kind of what I've been doing for, I guess, close to 5 years now, counting LTV Plus. And that's kind of what drives me every day. Yeah.
Hey, that makes sense. Once you get into this industry, it really just kind of drives your spirit, right? I really like that. It's one of those things. I looked at it from the outside in before I got involved in this type of work, and I thought, oh man, this seems tough. But once you get into it, it's almost you develop a servant heart, right? You want to help people with everything that they do. Now, exactly. GQ, as we get into a different topic here, I find that a lot of times people in this field, right, we make a lot of decisions as we go forward, especially someone in your position at a CEO level, make a lot of decisions, but sometimes those decisions don't pan out like we think they will. My next question for you, man, is what's a decision that you've made in your line of work that had an unexpected outcome?
So, when we started the business, our goal was to be 100% remote, but we figured we would set up, I think as we ended the business, I wouldn't say a hub, but a kind of like a physical space where people could meet. So for example, if you have an office in Ukraine, in Kyiv, for example, people could come by to the office and hang out and stuff like that. And so we thought, by having a mixture of remote and offices, our customer support agents would be happy to kind of like come to the office or not. That's fine, or we're flexible that way. But then we realized when we offered that opportunity, that flexibility, people just didn't, they would come maybe once a week or not come often. They would rather just go and attend company events. They would rather just hang out with people during their off times, but they would take that remote work to spend more time with their families and not commute, right? So I see in the background you have I think the flag of the Philippines, I believe. So, have you been to the Philippines?
I actually have not yet. I would love to go, but COVID said no.
COVID's just kind of threw everything out the window. But so in the Philippines, for example, depending on where you live, and if you're commuting to a job in Manila, right, you typically take anywhere between 2 to 3 hours either one way, and that can typically take up to maybe 5 to 6 hours, depending, back and forth. And if you're working a night shift, it can be pretty rough, right? So we saw, our staff not wanting to go to the office much, and then we decided that we would just. So we thought offering an office would actually be something that people wanted, and so we dropped it completely at the end of 2019, which was actually also in a way a good thing that we didn't expect, because 2020 came, March 2020 came, and then, no one could go anywhere. And so I think we made the right unexpected move just before COVID hit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, that sort of hub and spoke model of having a place that people can come to. But as 2020 showed us, a lot of us work pretty dang well from home, which is great, especially in the field, because then you don't need to worry about getting an office space for everybody to come into. But I do like the idea that you guys have where you still have something. So in the Ukraine where you are right now, is that where one of your main offices are for LTV Plus?
So we shut down the last office in 2019. We have no physical office, so to speak, but we do have people based here in Ukraine. I'm one of the folks based in Kyiv, but there's really no central hub, and I think that's going to stay for a while because COVID's kind of still here, and that's in some of the countries where our staff are in, they're not even able to go out much to go meet other people. But I do know that SupportNinja also. You guys have a pretty strong hub and spoke model, I believe.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're definitely doing that same idea. But even we're finding that it really works to have people just going remote. There's something to it. I think when people are comfortable and when they feel like there's trust in their role to get their job done, they can work wherever they want, whether it's an office that you've provided for them or it's on their couch,
I love
Everything
it. That's
seems
awesome.
to work out. I really respect that you guys have gone completely remote because that's tough. That is very tough, especially on
It
an
wasn't
international
easy,
scale.
but I think the fact that we had that goal in mind from the beginning, and we just thought, hey, let's have offices. That shift wasn't too much of a transition because we were
Sure.
remote from the beginning. Yeah. So it wasn't too hard. Our processes and stuff were built around our remote teams from the beginning. And it's just a matter of how we scale that. And obviously that comes with its own fair share of challenges, but we do our best.
Absolutely. Is there any plan to have a physical location in the future?
We're definitely not against it. We're definitely down to check it out. But for now, I don't think that's in place. I think the most important thing actually is that at some point when the world kind of opens up a little bit better, I think it's really getting everyone to meet again, because we used to have like quarterly meetups or annual meetups, but that's not happening anymore because,
Because COVID. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have to try and keep that social aspect of it because we might be able to do great work from home, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because you don't really feel like you're part of a team in some aspects, right? It's just, oh, I see these faces on Slack or on Zoom, and that's basically all the human connection you get. It does help to actually have people come in person and see, oh, that's what my boss actually looks like. He's taller than I thought. It's a big thing. I know the first time I actually got to meet my boss, I was like, oh, okay, now I kind of get it, right? Even though we seem to all do really well from a remote position. But anyway, GQ, I'm getting off topic here. Let's get back on script.
Sure, no worries.
In that respect of noticing that remote worked better than trying to have those physical offices, it sounds like it was kind of a tough situation to say, okay, we have this office now. I guess it's time to look at the facts and let's get rid of this. So when you're in tough situations, right, or bad situations rather, what approach do you use to get out of them? Is there a certain way that you handle tough situations?
Well, if we take the office decision as an example, right? I think it's, we thought about, would we lose that closeness as a result of shutting down the offices, but we listened to the people. I think one of the most important things is really understanding what options you have in any so-called difficult situation, and ideally maybe even sleeping on it if there's time, because I've seen how certain bad decisions I made on emotions have kind of led to not so good outcomes, right? So really just understanding what options are available and what the actual outcome is that you want out of this part. Because there are a lot of different things that will not change. You're presented with the situation, you have to accept it for what it is. Okay, cool. How do we move forward from there? So really understanding what's there, what's the outcome that you want, and exploring what options there actually are. Ideally getting creative too, right? Because and where possible, probably bounce these ideas off other people, because one person is not enough. You could try and solve it on your own, but if you're talking to someone else, like if I'm having a chat with you, Jack, and you're my sounding board in a way, you might suggest things that will be like, hey, wow, okay, I didn't think about that. There's a better way to go about this. So yeah.
So it's taking in all those different perspectives. I like that. It seems like there's a big listening aspect to everything that you do, which is great. I think that's a good sign of a great leader, someone who's willing to listen to others rather than just go, this is exactly how it will be done, and it's my vision, and no one can say otherwise. That's great, man. But I'll tell you what, it's undeniable that this is a pretty tough field to work in. There's a lot of challenges that we face, right, in the customer support world. What do you think, in your opinion, are the most challenging aspects of working in customer support?
Most challenging aspects.
I don't say the customers. Customers is too easy an answer. They can be tough.
Well, so most challenging parts of working in customer support. Yeah. I think the first thing is being able to respond. Well, you as a brand would want to respond to customers like pretty much ASAP, right? On the spot. Sure. You're able to get back to people in just an instant, be it chat, SMS, email, whatever you call it. I think that's one of the most challenging things that typically we'd see with brands, especially, sorry.
You're good.
Especially with brands that are more high touch, right? Maybe it's, for example, someone who's shopping for an engagement ring, and you have a lot of them coming to your store at one time. How do you tackle something like that, right? So that to me is one aspect of that, getting back to customers, not just fast, but also well. I think the other thing that you constantly see a challenge, or rather a It's never it's never like set it and forget kind of thing. It's when you have peaks, for example, you have Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or a certain campaign turns out really well and you're driving a lot of sales or traffic to your store. How do you manage your team? How do you decide how many agents do you have? How do you prepare them for such a situation? What is your tech in place to handle that? Right. So I think that's another possible challenging aspect of customer support. And then also, I think the other thing is, if this is not already done, I think for certain brands it would be possibly, how do you handle repetitive inquiries and not seem like you're just putting something in place to just throw it away, kind of thing. Like, so for example, like a classic question is like, where's my order, right? You don't just want to, you don't want to seem impersonal, but also setting in the right kind of experience in place, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's when something like self-service can come into place. You can send them, here's the tracking order or the tracking number. Go ahead and click on this. We'll show you through our system. Now, from those challenges, GQ, is there any lessons that you've learned, right, as you've gone through your career?
Yeah, for sure. And in fact, you just brought that up. You've answered the solution to the previous challenging problem. And that aspect is, suggesting using technology in ways where you can help the customer realize or solve their own problems without you kind of like holding up the process, right? So for example, like you said, where's my order? Setting up a self-service bot in place, you can go through kind of like, okay, this is here right now, whichever, and having customers find your answers very quickly without having to hit up an agent, right? Of course, this differs from industry to industry, but generally speaking, I think that's always helpful to have that option. But on top of that, the other parts of that is also the personalization aspect that I've thought about in terms of, how do you, so when we talk about getting back to customers fast and proper, like how do you scale your automation, but not just automation, how do you also ensure that your team that you have, whatever the size is, how do you filter that, what do you call it? How do you, I guess, have your team members help support customers with more complex inquiries? And so, understanding, having seen like different of our some of our clients go through these challenges, we figured out, for example, like you said, the self-service piece. How do you automate and how do you send different conversations to different people? Having specialist teams within a customer support team, because for example, you could say you can have like a team of 10 customer support agents that do everything, but maybe it's more wise to have some of them focus on chat, email, phone, depending on the volume, right? So that was something that we learned over time, not just having a catch-all, because we obviously that's helpful in the beginning, but as you scale the team up, probably having specializations makes sense. And and I think I don't think you can ever train someone enough. In the sense, okay, sure, if an agent is constantly in the brand, they're living and breathing it, they understand the industry, they understand the products that they're selling or supporting rather, they understand their customers better. But you would always want to ensure that they're going through maybe weekly, monthly, quarterly refresher courses, or just getting updates and having retraining to make sure that the knowledge is in check. So I think that's something that we always ensure on our end, just to make sure that agents truly have a good grasp of what's been going on.
And make sure that they continue to learn every day. I dig that, man. That's a good thing. That goes back to even one of our core values at SupportNinja, which is improve every day. You're never truly done learning. I like that. All right, man, let's flip the script a little bit, as it were, and focus more on the broad things, the people that have helped you. As you've progressed in your career, GQ, who was there to help you? Was it a community, a mentor, a series of podcasts, YouTube video instructors? Who helped you become the CEO that you are today?
Wow, that's I like to give a shout out to my family, my friends. That's just kind of, joke. Well, that's not a joke, but it's a mixture of things. But I'd say like some of the key people I think would be, well, first of all, I think my business partner, David, I learned because he has, successfully built multiple different businesses and have had successful exits. But one thing that I really love from his approach is the customer success driven approach as well, that's why we incorporated this with LTV Plus when we started. So I learned a lot from him, not just, not from the, how you run a business, how you, how you adopt a better how do you even implement customer success in your business, right? And also I learn a lot for my own personal development in terms of habits, in terms of scheduling, my calendar, stuff like that. And of course, also, I think from the customer success standpoint, I learned a lot from Lincoln Murphy. I went through his blogs. I've gone through some of his stuff, and it's quite interesting about his methodology or his approach to customer success. Mm-hmm. But of course, I think one of the biggest, especially with LTV Plus, two of the biggest sources of learnings are our clients and partners. Because we learn a lot. We've only been able to get to where we are today if we had not listened to them, like you said, listening, right? So if we didn't listen to them, we wouldn't be able to get to where we are today. And that's what I'll say. And the final one, funny enough, I'm also a part of Support Driven, so I've kind of been lurking in Slack, just checking certain things out. So I've been checking that out a little bit, and also reading different books. And one book that I highly recommend, be it if you're in CS, be it if you're an entrepreneur, I think one really cool book is Traction, where they talk about the EOS framework. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
I am actually a little bit, because we just started trying to do things with EOS.
Oh, really? Enough. Oh, you guys are that's awesome. You should try it out, and I'd love to get your feedback because we started this with EOS because David had great experiences with EOS, and he's implemented this with multiple companies. So we adopted that approach. Of course, I think most companies maybe I'm wrong, but not everyone runs the true EOS as it is, but they kind of adapt it based on your needs, right? So that's it's been very, very helpful. So I recommend if you want to approach business in a slightly different way, EOS might be helpful.
That's so coincidental. The leadership team at SupportNinja is actually doing a session with EOS right now as we're recording this.
Oh, serious? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Up in Dallas doing it right now. That's actually really funny. Small world. Who knows?
Small world indeed. Yeah.
All right, GQ, let's keep on that same traction of thought though, with you growing through your career. I want to know, how have you grown in your career, right? You founded this company with David, and 2018 to now, there's probably been a lot of ups and downs. How have you grown personally through that whole experience?
How have I grown? Personal experiences. I think the one thing is being able to make tougher decisions a lot quicker. So again, coming from a customer service or customer success background, it's never easy for me to say, to approach tough subjects without trying to appease everyone, right? Obviously, you want to make people happy, but I think one of the key things is you want to make decisions that are better for everyone, like across the board, like the bigger picture versus the smaller picture, right? And so we've had to make some tough decisions at certain times. And I think over the years that has running this business has kind of given me that ability to, or helped my ability to make these tough decisions in a shorter time frame without having to wait. Right. On top of that, it's also gotten me, if I wasn't proactive enough before, I think now it's gotten me thinking a lot more strategically, because back as a CSM, a lot of the things that we were doing, especially with customer support, when you're on the front lines, it's very reactive most of the time, right? So when you have a huge influx, and one of the companies I used to work at, we were also involved in physical events. So, you'd be up you'd be testing out new hardware and software at 9 p.m. and you probably couldn't get it working at 3 a.m. and the event's going to open at 9 a.m. the next morning, right? So a lot of it was very reactive. And so being in a position where, where the vision, the mission, and the values of the business really matter, and kind of what's the strategy moving forward, it's given me a lot more opportunity to think strategically, to think for businesses, or for the business rather. And then on top of that, I think it's also understanding how customer service, although it has its similarities, how diverse it is across different industries. We've seen how different businesses approach the customer experience. Some they like to go for scale. They as long as they meet the bare minimum requirements to make people happy, they want to go at scale. Whereas some people are more like, hey, we want to pick up the phone and talk to people. And so you understand that there's no one size fits all. You understand how the nuances work. And I think those are kind of like the three things there. And final thing would be, I think I'm much more better organized as an individual today than I was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Time is precious.
Be a big one. Oh yeah. I wish there was 48 hours in a day, man. There's never enough time to get things done. That's so funny. This story about trying to get software to work at 9 p.m., then 3 a.m., and then you got a thing to turn around and do at 10 a.m. the next morning. Yep. I think I've been in that position before. That is tough. All right. Yep. GQ, let's set our sights in the future now, right? That's what the script is telling me to do. I want to know, because you've been in a position where you've sort of shaped a bit of your industry, right? I want to know, what do you think is the next big thing, as it were, in the customer support industry? What do you think's next for everyone?
I'm not sure the exact shape and form, and everyone has been talking about this for quite a while now. But it's quite amazing to see how far AI has come in handling customer service or providing customer support. I don't remember the partner that we were chatting with last year, or actually I think was it earlier this year now. I remember what they've done is they built I want to say a chatbot, but like a voice bot. Yep. Oh. And I'm not sure if you've encountered some of those before, but they have recorded multiple new one, a lot of audio clips. And what they've done is they've kind of synthesized this together where you're able to create a live, kind of like a conversation or a survey bot that is spoken through entirely by a human. Well, with a human, I mean, there's a voice actor who did that, or voice actress rather. And they will call you and you can respond to the conversation, with your voice without pressing any buttons. Right. And they could collect collect some feedback. So I remember they ran a trial on me and they said, okay, cool. If you're interested to find out more, we'll run a trial with you. Just give us your number and we'll make a random call sometime in the week and, asking for a survey. So I said, okay, cool. So you kind of understood that. And they just randomly called me. A lady called me and did an NPS survey with me. And I was like, wow. Okay. It's pretty.
It wasn't a real person. It was that AI that you were talking.
It was the AI, but it sounded like a real person. The conversation flowed naturally. And, but again, this was a survey setup, right? So it's a very small instance, but this is just the beginning, and I think that's going to go much further. And I think where it's interesting to see is, you see AI in customer support spread out in multiple different directions. You have, bots where the idea is to automate a lot of it, hoping or working on AI to tackle a lot of that. And I think a lot of big enterprise companies, even banks, they're using chatbots and stuff now, right? Even real estate, it's going in that direction, but it's not at the point of, hey, we can completely replace a human. In fact, what it's done is it's freed up agents to focus on like the key matters that where a user is not able to solve it through a bot, right? So whether or not that enhances the customer experience, it depends on the delivery, depends on the industry. Then the other aspect of that is there are a lot of software companies that are building out, I'm not sure how to put this, but AI assist tools where it's, they're able to detect kind of like what the customer sentiment is and you're able to respond. They're able to assist an agent in responding a lot better, a lot quicker too, as a result. So, we're seeing these two different things and it's only August 2021 right now, but I had a chat with Derek from e-commerce tech. And his bet is, he said that he believes that AI will take over a lot of it in the next 3 to 4 years. And, it's exponential, right? I mean, I'm not sure if everyone pretty much knows what's that Boston Dynamics. And you've seen how the robots have come, right? Such a long way. And then you've seen like now there's talk about the Tesla bot, right? So, all these things are coming up. So what more for customer support? I mean, this is the one thing where, big businesses have to tackle, especially when they have to service millions and millions of people. So do you have, how many agents do you get? How far can technology go? So I think that's one really big thing. The other thing I think that's more near term would be SMS. I think that's kind of blown up, I think, since last year till now. And that's a near win. I mean, a win that people can, tackle right now. If you're not focusing on your SMS strategy, if you're not focusing on how you can respond to people better or recover your cards or subscriptions through SMS, it's probably something that people should look at, because I think it's one of the channels where it's not so what's the word for it? Overused. Because like when you have emails, right? You're constantly getting email campaigns and blah. You kind of close it. You don't open it. Sometimes you do if it's from someone or if it's something interesting, but most of the time people close it. And sometimes you send it so much, it goes to spam or it goes into some other folder in your Gmail. as an example. So SMS is kind of a way to cut through the noise. And I think that's just going to go much further into 2022.
Yeah, I could definitely see that one taking off very soon. I know.
Yeah.
I'm interested if we're going to hit a point, though, in the SMS field where it's going to become something like email, where you're getting 60 texts a day going, oh, God, what was this one for? What was that one for? It's all spam, right?
Yeah.
You got to find that happy medium.
It may happen, right? You know,
Sure.
like people are doing that with, you have some of that in Telegram and WhatsApp right now, right? With WhatsApp Business, etc. So, there's some kind of way to filter them based on the contact, but you know, I think it's just a matter of time before it gets flooded as well. Yeah. But well, I guess we'll see. we'll see how that turns out.
Might as well try it while it's still new, right? Exactly. Give the customers 18 different ways that they can communicate with you, right? I like it. The easier you can make it, the better it is, honestly.
Yep.
I totally respect that. So, GQ, as we move down the script, right? I've noticed that this field can be not only challenging, but also kind of negative sometimes, especially as we're dealing with people that want support, right? 9 times out of 10, I feel like customers aren't coming to your support channels because everything's going right. And they just wanted to say like, hey, this is a great job, or can you just help me find my email real quick?
Yeah.
A lot of times people are a little bit angry. So in your field, GQ, I want to know, how do you stay positive personally? How do you stay positive in this rather negative field that we work in?
Well, yeah, it can get rough. We've seen, well, you and I have both probably seen our fair share of kind of the not so nice things that people can say when they're really unhappy. I think one of the key things, like we can talk about that for now. Like, let's say irate customers, right?
Sure.
I think the one thing that really helps, well, not even just myself, I think it's something that we like to share with the rest of the company as well. Like, how do you stay positive? I think the main thing is to understand why people are pissed off to begin with, right? Is it something that the brand has done? Is it something like, is it shipping delays? Like, you know, like that instead of 5 days, it became 30 days or 60 because of COVID, for example, right? And understanding what the reason is and it's hard. It's not easy to do it. I can't say that everyone can do it. And you know, emotions do get the better of you sometimes. When you have had time to collect yourself, you know, we always have to remember, like, what is the actual reason why someone is really upset? And also, it may not even be the actual problem. Like, okay, so let's say there's a shipping delay, but what's the deeper problem? With certain customers, not all of them, of course. Some of them are just obviously not happy because there's a delay, but it can go deeper than that. And I think just being open-minded and doing your best to be a listening ear if needed, or just to chat, I think that's the most important thing. In fact, I remember there was an example. I cannot remember the source that for this particular brand now, but they're so well known for their call center that, you know, when people call in, sometimes people would just call in on the weekend or whatever and have a conversation with the customer service team, even though there isn't a particular problem that he or she wants to solve. But they would talk, and it's more of like a conversation. I wouldn't say it's like a therapy session, but it's just like chatting with someone about their problems, and people listen, and the agents actually, you know, communicate and just be a listening ear. It goes a long way, and actually people remember that brand. I have to find it and let you know, but I remember that story, and it stuck with me for a while because I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, people just want to be heard. People just want to talk, and once they've aired out their frustrations, then they can get to the part where, okay, now let's solve your problem. How can we solve that? Right. And, you know, and I think the thing is, the natural instinct for most people, or actually everyone, is to help each other. And I don't think, you know, like, let's say there's a customer calling, I don't think they didn't have they did not come in with the idea that I want to scream the hell out of you, you know, like it's not something like that. It's probably something that's affected them. And once you've kind of met at the same level, that's when you can begin solving the person's problem. So I think that's really crucial. Like you said, listening is a huge part of it. That's one way to stay positive. And the other part of that, I think, like you said, to keep it fun, you know, yes, it's pretty true. When people are happy, they rarely come and tell you like, hey, you've done great service, unless it's like a resolution, right? I mean, some people do, but not everyone does. Cause like, oh, great service, great. But that's at the back of their minds. They don't leave a review or something. I think one way to keep things fun is, now that you have happy customers coming back, how do you take that experience a lot further, right? Is it sending a personal note? Is it just dropping in to say hi, checking in on them, depending on the kind of product or service you're offering? I think just taking that one step further keeps it fun, because you're like, hey, wow, we've done all these different things, right? How can we actually just improve that overall experience? Because then, customers remember you for that. They don't just know you as, okay, yeah, thanks for solving my problem, but it's like, wow, brand A has gone above, as they like to say it, above and beyond, just to create a much better experience for me.
Absolutely, man. Wouldn't that be incredible to be known as that company where people just call in because your agents are so good that they can just have a conversation with them? That is something I feel like we should all kind of strive for in the BPO business.
Yeah, no, hell yeah. That's just amazing. And I think because, people just play in more so now, a little bit of love and help for everyone. I think it's much, much needed. Yeah,
exactly, man. The world is a rough place right now. We could use someone to open their ears, right? Listen to
for sure.
Absolutely. I like that. I really do like that. If you find that place, definitely send that over, because I would love
I will definitely check that out for you. Yes.
Perfect. All right, let's move into our final stretch of questions here, GQ. Going to go broader again, right? What is one common customer support myth that you'd like to demystify for our viewers and listeners?
That customer support should not be viewed as a cost center. It is not true. It is actually a profit center. I think that's the number one. I think you probably agree with me as well. I think this is something similar to support.
That's the answer I wanted.
I was like, yes. Because it's true. Like people and I think that, to be fair, I think a lot of brands have already started adopting that mindset, but there are still those where they think, it's just, I just have to get someone there just because to take care of the bad stuff or whatever. But that's not true, because that's the opportunity for your brand to communicate with the customer, to help them find what they really need, or make recommendations to things that they really need. So, there are instances where, where customer support has, referred people, let's say, to other brands, maybe not necessarily their own, but they also benefit because maybe there's a partnership with that brand, and also if you're able to respond to people better, you're better able to service your customers. That actually extends your customer lifetime value, right? They keep coming back. They ideally become evangelists and they promote your brand, right? So that's everything just goes there, right? Your goal is to create a best customer experience. And so you're investing, when you invest in customer service, you're investing in the retention and the growth of your brand, not just because I have to do it. And check that off the list of stuff for your business.
110% agree with you, man. That's one of the biggest things is customer retention. I don't think a lot of companies understand that. It's one of the biggest aspects of staying successful is keeping the people that came to you in the first place, instead of trying to find every single person on the face of the planet. Keep people happy. They'll keep coming back. And then, as you say, they'll talk great about your stuff and more people will come. It's just a self-serving, cycle, right?
Exactly.
I dig it. All right. On to the fun one. Where can our viewers and listeners connect with you online, GQ? LinkedIn? Is that the best place? Or even your podcast? You said you've done a pod. You said you have your own podcast. I was going to say you have your own podcast, you've said. So where can we listen to that?
Sure. So if you're interested, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's GQ LTV Plus. You can pretty much find me there. Not to be confused with with another brand, but
sure.
I get that question. I get that a lot when I introduce myself as GQ, but it's super funny.
Oh yeah.
And then in terms of the podcast, thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
It's called the How We Solve podcast. And on the podcast, our goal is to share tried and tested solutions from different business, out of the different entrepreneurs, different professionals in their fields. And so you can just go to howwesolve.com to check that out, or just go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We're pretty much everywhere. Just search for How We Solve. And we're still creating content. And in fact, we have to get you guys on our show as well. But so that's coming together. But yeah, either LinkedIn, or you can also email me at gq@ltvplus.com if you have any questions. Definitely happy to share more.
Well, there we go, guys. Be sure to check that one out. And we'll definitely make sure to get your podcast link in the show notes of this episode so that people can
That's awesome,
click that and check it out. Absolutely. Hey, this is how podcasts work, man. We help each other out.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right, GQ, we'll move to the final question for today. And that is going back to the title of this show, the Customer Excellence Podcast. And I want to know, GQ, what does that term mean to you? Customer excellence.
Funny story. I went to Google what customer excellence means on Google, just for the heck of it, right? Yeah. But I'm not going to give that a definition. I understood it's pretty much similar to kind of what I had written, what I have in mind with customer excellence. So to me, customer excellence just means that you want to ensure that the customers that you're supporting or working with, that they're successful through the product or service that you provide. They're successful with the product or service that you provide, making sure that that your business or your product or service is able to solve the problems that they have successfully, not just solve it, but take it to the next level. And so the idea being that you want to create, as we say, an excellent experience, not just average, but you want to take that further and just going much further with that. So customer success driven again.
100%. Love it. GQ, thank you so much for joining us today. I've really had a great conversation with you, man. I'd love to talk maybe at some point after this, because you seem like you got a lot of info I can glean from just listening.
Yeah, for sure.
Man. And guys,
thanks for having me on the show, Jack. It's been great catching up with you.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to check out the show notes to check out GQ's podcast. And once again, GQ, thank you and have a wonderful day.